Good evening, everyone. It's the Fit Lawyer ATL, and I'm so excited you're joining us tonight. Drop your location in the chat so I can see where everyone is from. So the jury. Oh, give me 1 second. Let me fix this. All right, sorry. All right. So, like I say, drop a location in the chat so I can see where you're from. Tomorrow, guys, the jury is back. Can you believe it? Shannon Stillwell, aka Shannon Jackson, and Deamonte Kendrick, aka Yak Gotti, will be back in the courtroom. Oh my goodness. All right, I see Boston in the house. We got Kenneth from Florida. Elizabeth is here from Texas. Montressa from Pittsburgh in the house. Okay, y'all are all over. Hi, Jen creates it all. Laverne from Las Vegas. All right, Miss Jazzy Jazz. Miss from Portsmouth, Virginia. All right, Susan from Florida. Yeah, guys, can you believe it? Tomorrow, the jury is back. The plea deals were taken off the table Thursday by the state right after they put them on the record. Like, how unfair did that seem to be? But Doug and Max basically told them, take this shit to trial. And we are doing that tomorrow. I am so excited. Shout out to all the new subscribers to the channel. We went from 66 to almost 6,000 since Tuesday of this week. God is so good, and the TLA effect is amazing. I will forever be grateful for him. If one of the mods can drop the lead attorney's channel in the chat, I greatly appreciate it. And Black Butterfly says the jury has been watching YouTube all weekend. Like, are they? And I always wonder that, like, are they watching? They're not supposed to be, but how can you not? It's literally everywhere. I mean, I opened up my YouTube Saturday morning and it was a song from Thug saying first day out. And I was like, what? Now he had Elf the Judge in there, and I was like, I know this ain't Thug. So I think it's like an AI, but still, like, I wasn't looking for anything. I just opened it up and it's there. So it's literally everywhere. So you're right, Black Butterfly. I don't know how the jury isn't or if they're gonna be watching, but we know that. Also, I want to give a shout out to AV to the 7 Power. She sold an amazing seed into this channel. So if one of the mods can drop lead and AV's channel in the chat for me, I greatly appreciate it. I also just want to give a shout out to Alchemy. I don't know if she's in here yet. One of my moderators, she was the stream sponsor from the last stream. So I do want to put her in the banner because I forgot to do that. And y'all have just been really great with blessing the channel. I was able to qualify for monetization like in a day and a half. Just still waiting on the analytics to catch up. So I do not have super chats yet or a membership, but I do have the Cash App and the Zelle in the banner, so you can send things there if you like. Let me add, well, hold on 1 second, y'all. We were flowing. I'm trying to wait till she came to stream sponsor so I can make sure I had her name correctly. I think I do, but I'll fix it when I see her if it's not. All right, get that back up. All right, so just thank you all so much for the support. So let me go back to the comments, and I know some of you all were checking in. Can you believe it? Like, we've been away from the trial for the last 11 days. 11 days, and we'll be starting back up. Right, somebody says that Thug's plea was front page AJC. How does the jury avoid those type of things? Like, a lot of times we get news fed to us like in our email and Facebook. How do you avoid seeing this? I just don't understand. Black Amazon has a great question. What do you think the jury instructions are going to be? That's a good question because I was thinking, like, I don't know, you don't inform them that they took a plea, because that means that would create a bias within the jury, right? Because then if I hear that some of the defendants took a plea, then I'm going to think that everybody's guilty. So I wondered if she was going to say something like they're severed from the trial, and that's how they'll play it to the jury. It's really going to just be exciting to see what exactly they're going to do. So we'll have to see tomorrow what they craft. And not only do we have to find out what the jury instruction will be, what are we going to do with the mistrial, right? We don't forget 11 days ago, Wooney Lee, aka Slime Life Shawty, was on the stand, and he is why Thug is home. Does anybody remember what he did to cause the chat? I mean, sorry, the chat caused the trial to pause. Can anybody tell me? Let me fix that. Yes, free Quay. That's what he hashtag free Quay. And I was watching that again earlier today, and I was like, she just basically slow walked him into that. I mean, it was a big space on the screen, but I could hear. I think I was watching 11 Alive's lead feed, and you could hear her gasp when he said it. And that's why we're here. That is why Judge Whitaker asked the defense, "What do you want?" I mean, I'll give you a mistrial if you want it. And so, if you all remember, when the case first started, they had the Harvey rule, right? And that meant that anytime someone made a motion, it applied to all the defendants unless they opted out. And I don't recall hearing anyone opt out of that motion, right? So I would think that when things start back up tomorrow, that's the first thing on the table, since the state took the offers off the table, right? So Thug is now home due to Wooney Lee, aka Slime Life Shawty. And a big reason of that is that the state hasn't been prepping their witnesses. They haven't, it seems as if they haven't been able to prep anyone, right? They are it's happening so fast. They're having to call witnesses in so many a day at a time. They're in court all day long. So it kind of makes it hard to prep them, right? But then the flip side to that is it's about 200 and some attorneys that work in the DA's office, right? So it looks like they will have plenty of time to prepare the witnesses to testify, especially on things that they cannot say, because that's why we're here. The fact that Wooney Lee is just reading what he was given by them is the reason we got a mistrial hanging in the balance. This just depends on what Judge Whitaker will do. Yeah, Candace Duvernay has a great question. Is it a lack of witness prep or lack of witness cooperation? I think we've seen both of those, right? Because Detective Dennis was the state's witness, one of the state's star witnesses, and he made an error on the stand. Although the judge believes it to have been purposeful because he might have had a little bruised ego since they were questioning his qualifications. But that's a witness that definitely is cooperating. And then you got Wooney Lee, who has no choice but to cooperate. And the reason being is because he's taken a plea on this case. He is under sentence. And I have his plea sheet and his plea transcript so that we can see exactly what Wooney Lee has to testify to so that he doesn't end up in jail with Muntum. Because that is the reason Muntum's probation was revoked, was because he agreed at the time he took a plea to say certain things. And when it came time to testify, he was changing it up. And you can't do that. Well, let me take it back, because you can do what you want to do, and then you see what the outcome can be. A question here: if the trial ends with a mistrial without prejudice or a hung jury, can evidence that's either been excluded or included in this trial be argued about in a future trial? And the answer to that is yes. If a mistrial without prejudice is granted, then you start over. And that's why it's not really a win per se, because it literally starts all the way over, and not over with this jury. It starts all the way back over to January 23 when they were picking a jury, and it took 11 months to get them seated. So we would start over with another possibly 11th month process, and then we would start a trial that we're 11 months into now. So that's such a waste of money and time. And so everyone's hesitant because will the case get better? Probably not. But during that time, it's a possibility that they're sitting in jail that entire time. So I'm not sure if that mistrial is going to happen. Oh, okay. Let's see. Oh, so let me bring up. I was able to get Mooney Lee's plea documents. So I want to pull those up on the stand so that we can just see what he can and cannot say in order to stay out of jail. All right, I'm gonna show you all that really quickly. All right. So what I did find out when I was looking for these documents is that Wooney Lee actually entered a plea to one count. His charges, he pled to the RICO, and he was able to enter his plea as a first offender. And we're going to talk about what that means when he comes back. But I have the factual allegations that he has to testify to. So one of them is that he will testify truthfully to all matters about which he's questioned, specifically testify that one, YSL is a gang. He has to testify to that when he's on the stand tomorrow or this week. If he testifies differently and tries to say that it's just a label, it's not a gang, he could be facing a potential probation revocation, just like Antonio Sledge. And he has a 10-year sentence. So the judge commuted 1 year. So he has 9 years on probation. So he has the possibility of going back. And actually, he actually could go back longer than 9 years, even though that's his sentence. And I'll explain that shortly. All right. So 2, he has to state that he became associated and or affiliated with YSL in the year 2017 at the age of 19. So for the last 7 years, he entered this 7 years ago. So if he gets on the stand and says anything differently, then he could be facing a revocation. He also has to testify that he sent, in the case of State versus Rodalius Ryan and Damon Blaylock, that he sent a message on Instagram containing a rat emoji and a brain emoji. Like, and I tell my clients this all the time, like, you can delete things off of your cell phone. You can delete them like off of Facebook. But if the police get your phone and do what's called a phone dump, they can get all of that stuff. They can get those DMs. They can get the story messages that only last 24 hours. They're still on the phone. So all of that stuff is there. There are certain apps that are encrypted that they can't get to, but like WhatsApp or something that has some type of encryption on it. But things like Instagram, no, they're there. Even though your story is only there for 24 hours, it's on your phone and they will find it. He has to testify that YSL is otherwise known as Young Slime Life, and that is a gang. He has to testify that some of their identifiers are that they wear green or red bandana, clothing with the words YSL or slime, wearing pendants displaying the letters YSL or the word slat. Yes, Jennifer, he did, right? As I was reading through some of this, I'm like, he already kind of testified to a lot of this, so I'm not even sure if we need to really revisit him. And then I wondered though, and I'm going to go through some of the other stuff. Was it a good idea to get out before he finished his testimony, right? Like, is something he can potentially testify to going to be something that will convince the jurors that a conviction is needed? And we're just going to have to kind of wait and see. What else? That some of the colors for YSL are red for bloods and green for slime. That they use hand signals that describe wiping the nose with the index finger, that's one of the symbols. Also, curling your ring and pinky finger inward toward the palm while extending the index and thumb with the middle finger slightly curved, that's another hand sign that they do, he will have to admit those things on the stand. So this, and if he doesn't testify to these things, he will face revocation. What else? He has to, some of the language that they use, blat, which means blood, love all the time. Slat, which means slime, love all the time. And these are things that we've already heard other witnesses deny, right? We heard Lil Woody on the stand. I don't recall to some of this stuff, but he wasn't under a sentence. So he wasn't under, and he had immunity. So he didn't have to testify to that. He was supposed to testify truthfully, but they didn't have him locked down in a plea document that said he had to say these specific things. They have to admit that at times you call Cleveland Avenue Bleveland. You replace the C of Cleveland with a B, and that you call each other blood or slime. And he will have to testify to that at the trial. Let's see what else. They use a green heart, a green snake. We've heard that over and over and seen it in the pictures. And then he has to acknowledge that he is aware that members and or associates of YSL claim to have committed at least one of the following acts: murder, aggravated assault, robbery, theft, or an illegal firearm possession. So Mooney Lee will have to testify that at least one of these following acts were committed by members of YSL. And that's going to be a big deal, right? When the jury hears that, are they going to think that that's enough evidence to then convict Shannon Stillwell or convict Yak Gotti? Or will they just toss it up to all the rest of the stuff that they've been hearing and it might not mean anything? And that's why you just never know what a jury will do. He has, and then they kind of ask him, is he remorseful for participating in these things, and acknowledge the plea agreement. But he has some factual allegations that he has to testify to, or he could be facing a revocation just like Mutum. And I see people asking, is there anything that can be done for him? I mean, I guess he could file a motion for the judge to reconsider, but when the judge gave you all of the reasons that she was doing what she decided to do, is kind of, you come back, I don't think it'll be any different, right? She wanted to make an example and show that you, because if you're going to take a plea that has factual allegations and testify to it, his lawyer was Derek Wright was his attorney, then that means when you take a plea, you're under oath. So if you testify, you're under oath. So if you say two different things, then that means you weren't being truthful one of those times, right? And so that's why she likens what he did to perjury and sentenced him to the time that she did. Hopefully he will get out early. Yes, it's a waste of time. Yes, it seems like all of these witnesses are a waste of time, right? Because they keep bringing the witnesses to ask the same questions. We've heard over and over about this. The infinity, and we heard over and over about the heart and the snake. It's like, how many times do we have to hear these things? Get to the point. And that's what Judge Whitaker is telling them, like, streamline your evidence, get to the point. Come on in here and wham bam, tell us how they did it, when, where, how, let's go. Like, it's so much to filter through. And I guess that's what possibly Brian Steele was considering when he felt like they were winning, because when you, at the end of the day, what have they proven? It's just crazy that we're still in the middle of this looking for a RICO. And every time the judge gives them pointers, it's like falls on deaf ears. Hurry it up, let's streamline it. And then they got 10 witnesses to talk about the same thing. It's just, it's sad. And so, in the whole time that this is going on, we have people sitting in jail that aren't able to get a bond. I mean, they've gotten bond denied over and over again. And then I think someone, the election's Tuesday. So, I don't know. I don't know if anything will happen differently before or after, but it's just, yeah. And then, like with Nichols, he was in the indictment with them on the unaliving charge, and it was dismissed. So it's like you're dismissing, we're willing dealing. So why are we still here? And why did we hear the type of offers that we heard for the last two remaining defendants. So let me think. Oh, first offender. Let me go back to that for with Wooney Lee. So he entered his plea under first offender. And what that is the act in Georgia where you can enter a plea if it's your first felony. You can also enter it on a misdemeanor if you've never used it before, but we like to kind of save those for felonies because they usually will, that's what will kind of keep you from the most restrictions going forward is a felony conviction. So you use your first offender, you enter your plea there. That means you're never adjudicated guilty. And so he has been sentenced to 10 years, served 1 in custody. It was commuted to time served. And then he has 9 years on probation. If he's successful while on probation, which can be early terminated, because I didn't see anything. Oh yeah, he has a bid date of 3 years. So if he's successful on probation for 3 years, then his charge can be discharged at the end of the 3 years, and it basically will be off of his record. His attorney can file for it to be sealed and will be like he never was a first offender probationer. He will never be a convicted felon. As of today, he's not a convicted felon. He's just a first offender probationer. So that's how first offender works. And that's the great thing about first offender. The con side to first offender is that if Wooney Lee was to have his probation revoked, then the judge could revoke the first offender, which means he would be a convicted felon for life. And then she could re-sentence him on the charges. So forget you got 10 years probation, well, 9 years probation. I'm going to revoke that and give you the max. And let's say the max is 20 years. She could do that, sentence him to custody. He would get credit for whatever time he's been on probation, but he would have a sentence, be in custody, and then he would be a convicted felon. I definitely think Judge Whitaker would revoke his probation just because she revoked Moontunes. And it was not because he failed a drug test, not because he failed to report to probation. We saw him in court so many times, right? It was simply because he failed to testify to what he agreed to in his plea. So she has already shown us that she will revoke you. So hopefully everyone is good on probation. I just have a feeling like the state, they gave so many people probation for a lot of serious crimes. It almost feels like a setup, right? Like they're waiting on them to do something so that they can move in and pick them up. Mango Gelato says if the feds were to pick this case up, they should have done it from the beginning, and they don't want it. I don't think they would want to. Who would want it? Like, if the investigation's sloppy and these crimes occurred 2014, 2015, like shit, that's almost 10 years ago. How do you go back and investigate that? So I doubt the feds would want this. How do you feel about Alchemy says, how do you feel about 15 years probation for Thug? Seems easy to violate and get him that way versus getting a guilty verdict in the end. And that's a good question. With the uncertainty of a jury, I think he will be fine. I think he chose the right move versus taking a risk, staying in the trial, and because it could have gotten better from here, right? We don't know what the state is going to look like. They've had 11 days off. And they could have, in this 11 days, been getting the rest of their case together, and the presentation will be something we've never seen. And then he'd be facing a lot of time. I think it was 110 years that Thug could have gotten if she had sentenced him consecutively on everything. So he will only have to serve 7.5 years of that probation. And Thug is in a unique position, right? He's not like a normal person, a regular one of us on probation. He's a millionaire. So I went back and listened to the plea, and she said that he can be around security that has weapons. So she put so many parameters in place, and you can check out our last stream. We went over the plea paperwork and all of his conditions for probation, but the judge really did a lot on the front end to make sure that he could be successful. And I think having him move out of Georgia, and it was just Metro Atlanta. I mean, he wants to live in Beaufort or Hall County or Paulding County, he can, but I think her point was, let me help you separate from the people you can't pull yourself away from that keep getting you in trouble. I mean, he said it in his thing, like, I just have a good heart. I want to keep helping people. And he can do that from afar. So I think she's helping him in that he already has housing other places. So if it was somebody, you know, of meager income, you know, that it would be a big thing, right? But Thug's a millionaire. He can relocate. And while it's the inconvenience, is better than Right Street and better than prison. And so I think he appreciates the deal that his attorneys worked out for him, which was amazing. So hit the like button. I'm so glad it's 400 of you all in the chat tonight. So yeah, let's keep going. So where did we leave off? So we left off 11 days ago with Judge Whitaker offering the defense a mistrial. And so when we come back, we got two left. We got Quay Nichols play it first, and then Little Rod, Mr. Huey, and then Young Thug. So, but did you all hear what the judge told Shannon and Yak Thursday? Like, I know you saw how Thug's plea went, but don't think yours is necessarily going to go the same way. And the difference is that Young Thug wasn't charged with a murder charge. And that is what Deamonte Kendrick and Shannon Stillwell are both facing. Shannon Stillwell was offered 60 to serve 40 years. Isn't that crazy? 60 years to serve 40. But the state did say that they would allow him to kind of tailor that 40 years to look like something, right? And when I heard that at first, I was like, okay, well, I guess if they would be willing to reduce the murder charges down to voluntary manslaughter, then that way he would be able to, because that's 1 to 20 versus life, then he could probably tailor something to Fashion's Thugs. You know, Thugs sentence is 40 years, but it was 5 to serve community time served, followed by 15 years probation, and then 20 years backloaded. So by her saying she was allowing them to craft it, that means that the state was open to Shannon Stillwell having a backloaded deal. But still 40 years, it was 60 years to play around with and backload. Whew, that's still nuts. I know that's crazy. Yes. Because of the Harvey rule, Weinstein's going to ask to renew that motion for exactly. I mean, it's still on the table. It hadn't gone anywhere, right? We haven't heard an answer to it. That's kind of where things pause. Fit. How was Love Zulu Time Productions asks Fit, how was Love able to get away with so much misconduct? More requests for mistrial than I can count and seemingly no consequences for her misconduct. How is this possible? I don't know. I don't know. The judges are they're running the cases, right? And I think we're up to over 40 motions for a mistrial, although I believe a lot more came when Judge Glanville was still handling the case. But I think if anything is going to happen about that, it'll be after the case is over. Once the case is over, because I don't know, did you all see Brian Steele and Keith Adams' press conference? But Brian Steele sounded like he was about to start slapping lawsuits. So I have no clue. But believe if there is something that can be done about how the state handled this case, Brian Steele and Keith Adams will take that route. So we'll just all have to stay and see. Yes, she allowed him. Joanna says she allowed him to keep his passport and shot down the state to keep his possessions, which I heard was over 8 million worth of cars and jewelry. They also said that someone from the state is in possession of this stuff. And I have to go back and pull those documents. So when it comes to collecting his things, they would have been seized when he was arrested. But in order to actually keep them, the state has to file what's called a forfeiture. And that's a civil case. And I think that's what Brian Steele was saying at the end, was that they tried to throw it in like it could be something she could say as part of the criminal case. And it was like, no, judge, we'll deal with that in a separate matter. That's a civil hearing when there's a forfeiture in place. So yes, Candace Duvernay says, Brian don't play the radio, baby. He does not. I actually, in pulling some of the documents for court, looked at his speedy trial demand. And in it, he already starts saying the words, saying that he was wrongfully indicted. And he already starts lacing the paperwork with his arguments from beginning to end. I was so impressed with that. Like, Brian Steele is an amazing, amazing attorney. Be sure to hit the like button, guys. What else? And so Shannon Stillwell is facing 8 counts. He is facing 2 murder charges, and that is for the unaliving of Donovan Thomas and Shamel Drinks. So he has exposure, as the judge said, to 2 life sentences, plus I believe another 85 years. So I don't know. Y'all tell me in the chat, like, if you're facing 2 life sentences, this is your trial, you're on trial, you're facing 2 life sentences and plus 85, which means you probably will not get out of prison if you get sentenced by the jury. If you get found guilty of the jury, do you take the 60 to 40 and get creative? What do y'all do? Which lawyer do I think is the best at cross? I'm taking Adams. You know what? Keith Adams was really good. I thought Carrington Matthews was good when he got up. I think they were all good. Brian Steele has he does a lot of drama in his. It was sometimes it kind of got a little wordy a little bit, even kind of hard for me to follow along. But the questions he was asking, the stuff he was locking down, the things he pointed out that the state doesn't have, and the claims that they do have something, and then he's pointing out during the cross how, well, they lied in the opening, they don't really have it. It's they're all doing amazing job. No, someone said that we see Thug's tweets today. Is it him? Because I heard the song and that was AI. So I don't know. Someone said Shart is my fave. I know Shart is amazing. He does good too. He likes to get aggressive, and when he gets on a roll and he knows that he has you. Doug is good too. I like Doug. Doug just has a different. He's straight to the point. Doug don't play. He just get up there. If he's trying to make a point, he's gonna make it, and that's it. Doug doesn't do all that extra stuff. Doug is straight to the point, and I love it. Let me take a second to read out a couple of cash apps. Got $20 from Beverly White. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. All right. Westmoreland. Yeah, Westmoreland, she did her thing too. Westmoreland is the reason we're here. Oh, I lost that comment. Westmoreland is the reason that we got the mistrial. She stood up and said, Judge, I have a motion. As soon as Wooney Lee said mistrial. So I don't have a fave. Like, I literally listen to the YouTubes from the trials every night. Like, I haven't watched TV in months. You can ask my trainer. I just saw her this weekend. She was like, you in the gym with that doggone thing on? I'm like, I'm just listening because I love to hear the objections, the arguments, the motions. Like, the legal part of it is amazing. And that's what I hope they really do a good job when they do this trial, do a movie about it, is the lawyering. And I want to see the behind the scenes, because y'all, it takes a lot of work to prep a case for trial. My partner and I had a murder case a couple of years ago, and I went back and counted. It was 200 hours spent just prepping for trial, not the time we spent on the case. I mean, literally just prepping the questions, prepping the witnesses, prepping your cross, opening, closing. 200 hours, and that was for a week trial. They've been on trial for 11 months. 11 months, that's crazy. I couldn't imagine. But so Shannon has 8 charges that are left, and Deamonte Kendrick has 9, but only 1 murder charge, and that's the unaliving of Donovan Thomas. So the state offered him 20 to 15. So while he's facing life plus a little bit, his offer was a little lighter, right? 20 to 15. So still Doug said take it to trial. I think, I don't know if the state's going to have enough evidence to convict him. So we'll see at what point who will kind of jump out of this first. Let me see. The file, the influence. Yes. Everyone that's coming in is having their moment. They're doing really, really good. Yes, I do work on federal cases with a partner. I haven't got one yet all the way through, but if you give us a call, maybe that'll be the first one we can take all the way. Because the first ones I had, they kind of resolve if you're not the big fish with the feds, it doesn't necessarily go all the way. So no. Okay, I'm gonna hold this until the end of the trial. I cannot say yet because we have been having I don't know how many attorneys in the courtroom, right? So tomorrow's gonna look so different. So tomorrow's just gonna be Doug and Max, right? So let me hold off that until the end of the trial. We can give out the MVP because we're about to get to see some stuff, right? Because now the evidence, we're not going to hear things that just focus on Thug and just focus on Mr. Huey. We're going to hear Shannon, Stillwell, and Deamonte Kendrick. That's how it should be. But we know the state likes to give us word salads and to have to get redirected. So we're just going to see how it's going to be. What did Nancy No 12? What are your thoughts on the judge saying Thug can't say certain things that are gang related? The rapper BG has to have every song released approved by the government first, and that's if you want to stay out of jail, that's what it's gonna be. I mean, that's where we are. You were in a gang case, took a plea to a RICO, and he did take a plea to gang charges, right? He pled guilty to one count of gang charge and he pled no-lo to the other and no-lo to the RICO, but those are still convictions. So as a judge, she has to recognize what you're taking responsibility for. And like I say, she's trying to help you. A lot of times you need to be redirected, remove yourself from certain things so you won't get caught back up in it. I mean, but I was wondering who exactly he was going to be able to work with when she said he couldn't even, rap with anybody that associated with gangs, because a lot of the rappers do these days. Right, Renette, they haven't proven that yet. And that's exactly what the last two defendants are charged with. So if they haven't proved it, then maybe that's why we're still in trial. Yes, he is. I just know Still has a YSL tattoo somewhere. I'm like, YSL Still is amazing. I remember when Thug first got arrested, he said he was going to fight this case to the last drop of blood in his body. Still is amazing. He was not playing with the prosecution at all. And once you crossed him and got on his bad side, you lost your honorable tag. And you were like, he said he don't even talk to Love anymore. And if you go back and watch the plea Friday, watch when the judge does the first sentence. You'll see Still kind of shake his cuffs down, and he kind of looks like this at the state, just kind of say like, I won. I told you this is where you should have been in the first place. So YSL Still is a real one. All right, so Deamonte Kendrick, his offer was 20 to 15. And he has turned that down. So trial will be starting in the morning. I was watching Miss Sylvia last night. She says that Little Rod, and I did go confirm on the Court of Appeals site, the Little Rod's hearing his appeal of his murder charge that he's under a life sentence for. That hearing will be tomorrow at 10 a.m. She is going to stream that on her channel. So if you want to check that out, do so. Lead and AV will be back in the morning, I'm sure, with the trial. I cannot wait to tune in to see that. And we'll see, right? Is the trial going to go all the way to a jury now? Will we get another mistrial? Tell me in the chat what you think. You think we're going to a jury? Do you think we're going to get another mistrial? Or do you think it'll end in a plea? So put it in the chat. What do you think? Mistrial, jury, or plea? Because it's starting back up in the morning. Yes, the DA, as part of their charges, they dropped Mr. Nichols' murder charge, and I believe Mr. Huey, if he was charged with some, they dropped him because he took a plea to 2 robbery charges that were reduced down from the armed robberies. So yes, so I see a mistrials. Oh, y'all think another mistrial, right? I mean, it's been a lot of mess ups, right? So there'll probably be another happen again. Mistrial, I see one jury thinks it's gonna go to a jury. Okay, jury, mistrial. Super chats and memberships will be coming. I should be able to hit the button in the morning to apply for monetization. I did hit the 4K watch hours last Thursday. Thank you all so much. But I had to wait on the analytics to catch up since my channel blew up overnight, literally. So they're like, they don't even know I'm on the map. So they're catching up slowly. So in the morning, I should be able to start that process. But until then, the Zelle and Cash App is in the banner. Blue-eyed hillbilly says there will be more mistrials with that jury. I know that's what it's given, right? The state is really sloppy in their presentation of this trial. Mistrial with prejudice. That's what I'm waiting to hear. Now, if the judge ever says a mistrial with prejudice, that means the case is over at that point. They get up and go home. They cannot bring it back. That would be the end of things, right? So let's just send prayers and shout outs to Weinstein and Max. And tomorrow they'll be the only two attorneys in the courtroom. Oh, and Mr. Kokomo, he'll be there. And I just can't wait to see what they're gonna do. It's the Doug and Max show. So that's what we got until this trial is over or until someone else takes a plea. It's the Doug and Max show. Y'all have been great. I don't want to keep you too long. It's already a late night. I just had to come in and chat with everyone and just talk about what's up for tomorrow. So be sure to tune in to Leading AV in the morning so we can see how the trial kicks off with Wooney Lee on the stands. Remember, none of this has been legal advice. I am not your attorney. This is just legal commentary. So I will see you all later this week. Have a good night.